1 second. I'll point to you.
Happy Pentecost, everyone. Hasn't this been a joyous feast? Such a joyous feast. I'm just so pleased to be here. Well, I'm going to start off by, I guess I'll give my title first. This is like the Old Testament counting down from Passover to Pentecost timeline. So we know we start counting for the 50, and I've never seen us do it in reverse, so I'm going to kind of go back through it again now that we've reached our 50. I have a printout, and I was told that it would be posted at the end, so it'll be posted. So I'm going to read maybe a little faster. Don't get frustrated. You can get the printout and go back over the scriptures if I go too fast. Okay, let's start, and we'll just start off. Like I said, we're going back. So the 14th day, the Passover is sacrificed. Now this Old Testament did it in physical ways. So we had a lamb there, and it gets far more exciting when you study the New Testament because it becomes spiritual. Okay, the 15th day, Israel began to leave Egypt. So if you go to Exodus 12:29, and I'll read through 36. Exodus 12:29. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat I'm going to take a drink. Okay, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. You know, I'm not sure if I read that right. I'm going to read it all over again. And it came to pass at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captives who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. So Pharaoh rose in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. They all felt this. This was a terrible night. Verse 31, then he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord as you have said. And he wants them out. 31, and then he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel. Oh, serve the Lord as you said. I guess I'm reading things twice. 32. Also take your flock and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also. He's frightened. 33. And the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we shall all be dead. So the people took their doughs before it was leavened. They were being in haste here, having their kneading bowls bound up in their clothes on their shoulders. Now the children of Israel had done according to the words of Moses, and they had asked from the Egyptians articles of silver, articles of gold, and clothing. And the Lord has given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they granted them whatever they requested. Thus, they plundered the Egyptians. Now, we're coming to the 16th day. This is the first Sabbath after the Passover. So Israel encamped at Sukkot. And we'll pick that up in Exodus 12, 37 through 39. Then, Exodus 12:37, then the children of Israel sojourned from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. A mixed multitude went up with them also, and flocks and herds, and a great deal of livestock. And they baked unleavened unleavened cakes of their dough which they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were driven out of Egypt. That would mean great haste. They were just pushed out, thrusted out, and could not wait, nor had they prepared provisions for themselves. Okay. Now, the Monday starting after the Sabbath begins to count to the wave sheet. We are now to count to 50. Okay, a few days passes. Israel's encamped at Pi Hahiroth, Exodus 14:9. So the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, and overtook them. See, he had a change of mind. He kept letting his self become hardened. So this is what happened in between these days. Camped by the river, by the sea, besides Pi Hahiroth, before Baal-zephon. Okay, then we come to Exodus 14:27. The Egyptian army is destroyed. Okay, Exodus 14:27, and Moses stretches out his hand over the sea, and when the morning appeared, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Now we come to Exodus 15:22. They went 3 days into the wilderness. So after they're leaving the sea and going 3 days into the wilderness. So 15:22. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. Then they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Now this is now the first Sabbath. So now each Sabbath you just add 7 days. So we are sure that we can add 7 days to the count. So there's 7 days less of the 50. So Exodus 15:23, it's going to show they're going to, their first stop is like Marah. So Exodus 15:23, now they came to Marah. They could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. That's correct. And it also repeats it in Numbers 33:8. I'll just go ahead and read it. They departed from Hahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness, went 3 days' journey into the wilderness of Ethan, and camped at Marah. Okay, Sabbath 2 rolls along. We are now in 14 days of the count. Okay, Exodus 15:27, they come to Elim. Okay, Exodus 15:27, then they came to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. So they camped there by the waters. Also in Numbers 33:9, they moved from Marah and came to Elim. At Elim were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, so they camped there. That was a lovely change from Marah, the bitter waters. Okay, now we come to Sabbath 3. And now we're right into 21 days of our count, into the count of Pentecost. Okay, Numbers 33:10. Let's read that one. They moved from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. Okay, now Sabbath number 4 is here. So we can now count 28 days into our count. Exodus 16:1. Exodus 16:1. And they sojourned from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which between Elim and Sinai. On the 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt, Now we go to Numbers 33:11. 33:11, they moved from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. In 16:8 is the first day of the manna, and this is interesting. Okay, let's Exodus 16:8, and Moses said, "This shall be seen when the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to the full. For the Lord hears your complaint, which you make against him. And what are we? Your complaints are not against us, but against the Lord." And then we see again in Exodus 16, 13, and 14. So it was that quail came up at the evening.
Sorry.
Okay, it was start over and again with this. It had a disruption. Okay, so it was that quail came up at even and covered the camp. And in the morning, the dew lay all around the camp. And when the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a small round substance, as fine as frost, on the ground. And it's interesting here, the quail was sent more than once, and the next time they were complaining again. A little less mercy on this next time coming up. We'll keep reading here, but we're coming up to the fifth Sabbath now. So Exodus 16, 22 to 23. And so it was on the sixth day that they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. Verse 23. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord has said. Tomorrow is a Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake today, and broil what you will broil, and lay up for yourselves all that remains to be kept until morning." Okay, now we go to Sabbath number 5, Exodus 16:25. Then Moses said, "Eat that today, for today is a Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field." The count now is at 35 days. So we're getting close. Okay, Exodus 17:1. Then all the congregations of the children of Israel sat out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the commandment of the Lord, and camped in Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. Okay, Numbers 33:12 to 13, we are 40 days into the count symbolically. And, we're like coming out of sin. You're going to see we'll be coming out of sin. And so we'll read 33:12. Numbers 33:12, they journeyed into the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. Now, verse 13, and departed from Dophkah and camped at Elash. Now, Sabbath number 6, we are now at 42 days into the count. Numbers 35:15, they departed from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. Now we come to war with Amalek. Okay, so we pick it up in Exodus 17:8 through 13. This is all the events that have been happening through the count to 50. Now Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, "Choose us some men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up on top of the hill. And so it was when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. Okay, the Israelites are pretty smart. So Verse 12, but Moses' hands became weary, so they took a stone and put it under him. And he sat on it, and Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and one on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And of course, here's the result. Verse 13, so Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Now we come to Exodus 19. 19:1. Exodus 19:1. In the third month after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Now Numbers 33:15. Number 33:15, they departed from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. So it confirms. Now we are about at day 47 on the count of Pentecost. So let's pick it up in Exodus 19:14. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. Verse 15, and he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not come near your wives. Okay, this brings us up past the Sabbath day. So we're past the 49th day, and that was the count. We counted the 7 Sabbaths, and that's 49. Now to the 50th day. It is now Pentecost. So it's day 50. And this is what we were wanting to go over. So Exodus 19:11, and then let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. Verse 16, Exodus 19:16. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunderings and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sounds of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now, Mount Sinai was completely in smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. Exodus 19:19. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him by voice. Verse 20, then the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Now he said to Moses, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from afar. And Moses alone shall come near the Lord, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people go up with him. Okay, Exodus 24:3. So Moses came and told the people all the words the Lord and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said, we will do. And I'll just go one day past Pentecost. It's verse Exodus 24:4, and Moses wrote all the words of the Lord, and he rose early in the morning, and he built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Yeah, this was for the 12 tribes of Israel. Anyway, I hope that this review was good, and we can never get too much, and when you use this as the physical, then we think on the spiritual. So think about the New Testament Pentecost. It's really awesome.